Hi there,
Hello.
we're Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're partnering with Eden Brothers to talk to you today about everything you need to know about gardening for pollinators.
Yeah, not only are we going to talk to you about what pollinators are, but we're also going to talk to you about how to attract pollinators to your garden, how to keep them there, and then also specific plants to bring in specific pollinators. At the basic level, a pollinator is any insect, mammal, or bird that goes from flower to flower, visiting each flower, gathering its nectar. As they feed on the nectar, they collect all the pollen in that flower, or it's just even some of that pollen, and then they transfer that pollen from flower to flower to flower as they consecutively visit each flower. And sometimes they will go in and fertilize the same flower with that pollen.
Yeah, so there are so many pollinators to think of, and insects being the largest group of pollinators that are pollinating plants. Butterflies, moths, wasps, all kinds of bees, of course.
Here in North America, there's actually over 280 different bee species.
Wow.
And so think of all of those different kinds of pollinators throughout the whole area.
And along with all the insects, there's the bird group, the hummingbirds. And we're going to talk about a lot of flowers to help you, if you like hummingbirds as much as we do, kind of attract more to your yard. And then there's all the mammals. So there's so much more to talk about.
There are many benefits to having pollinators in your garden. The first of which is there is a mutual benefit between the pollinator and the flower, where the pollinator gets the nectar and then the flower actually gets fertilized and it gets to continue on and go through and complete its biological process by producing that fruit, by producing those seeds or that crop. Now, the next benefit of having pollinators in your garden is for you, the gardener out there, you get to benefit from them being in your garden because you get to collect those seeds, you get to collect those crops and those vegetables and those fruits. Now, the third benefit of having pollinators in any garden is that they keep a whole environment, not only your garden, but the surrounding area and even a whole region healthy. They keep plants healthy, and with keeping plants healthy and going through their biological systems, it keeps the whole ecosystem really, really healthy. And also those pollinators can become part of the food chain of other larger animals.
So let's talk now about how to attract pollinators to your garden. If you've never had a pollinator garden before, this will be hopefully very helpful for you in knowing what you need to have available in your yard and in a garden, even if it's just a little balcony garden. We've grouped these into 5 different categories of things that you need to have available in order to get more pollinators into your space. So the first most main important thing that you need to have available is kind of obvious, but flowers. You need to have a food source available for pollinators in order to attract them to your garden. You can have everything else in the world set, but if you don't have the flowers, they're not going to show up. Right here, we've got coreopsis and yarrow. These 2 flowers attract tons and tons of pollinators. There's also agastache surrounding me here. There's salvia, there's catmint. All of these plants were complete buzzed with bees and butterflies and all kinds of other pollinators. So in order to get started with flowers, if this is new to you and you're kind of not sure where to start, native flowers are always the best option. Wildflowers, one place you can go is look online for an extension agency to help you determine which wildflowers work the best for your area.
So the next requirement to attract pollinators to your garden is having a water source, or maybe multiple different kinds of water sources like this bird bath. Other water sources you can have around your garden are butterfly puddling stations or shallow bowls of water or shallow containers of water spaced out around your garden. Now, if you don't have water sources in your garden, you'll have less pollinator activity.
Okay, so a third way to attract pollinators to your garden is to offer areas for nesting. Usually you think of nesting like big old pear trees. There's a big shrub behind me, a big laurel shrub. There's lots of bird nests and things up here, but also like insects can nest in these types of environments. So alternatives to having big trees in your yard or big shrubs, if you don't have access to that or to have that available, you can buy nesting boxes or even make them yourself so birds can nest in them, kind of like these back here. Or another option is for bees. You can make what's called a bee hotel. And there's lots of different materials and things you can make from home to support the bees in your yard. Similar to nesting, another thing you need to do in order to bring more pollinators to your garden and bring them in is you need to have areas for shelter and protection and hiding. What I mean by that is take a look at this Japanese maple behind me, this beautiful old weeping tree. This offers so much protection from predators. All kinds of pollinators, birds, and insects can hide under this if they need to. They could also use this to shelter from like the sun or from wind or any storms that come up. So another example that could be used for hiding is just this container over here. This might be a good option for you if you don't have a lot of space. This container right here provides a lot of different places for hiding and for shelter for different types of pollinators. Everything from this buglea shrub all the way down to the stellosperma that's cascading over. So lots of options.
Now, the last thing you want to do to attract pollinators to your garden is you want to provide a safe and healthy place for them to come and feed on the nectar and spread all that pollen around to fertilize your flowers. Now, to do that, you want to make sure you use very little or no chemicals to control either pests or anything else in your garden. We like to use naturally based and organic products to control specific pests out in our garden that are actually damaging our plants. Now, the great thing is that unless a pest is actually decimating a whole plant or a whole pot or container or area of your garden, you don't really have to treat that pest. If you can tolerate a certain amount of damage on the plant or any plant out here, then you don't really need to apply any pesticide at all, and that keeps things very safe in your garden for your pollinator. Now we'd like to talk to you about attracting pollinators year-round to your garden using specific plants. Specific pollinators like specific flower shapes and colors to attract them. To attract hummingbirds to your garden, whether they're migratory or they stick around for the year, you'll need to have plants that produce flowers in bright or hot red colors, yellow colors, and they'll also need to be in the shape of more of a trumpet form or just an elongated kind of flower. Like right here, this Kupfia plant, it's a vermilionaire firecracker. You can see it has these elongated tubular-like flowers, and it's kind of an orangish bright red. Perfect for the hummingbirds with their long beaks and long tongues to get in there and get all that pollen and nectar.
If you want to attract more bees to your garden specifically, they're attracted to a large range of colors and shapes, so you have a lot more options. Bees love purples, blues, pinks, and they'll come to reds, oranges, yellows as well. But purples seem to really attract bees, or the blues and purples. So we have some alyssum here. In addition to those colors, think of shapes. Bees love flat-shaped flowers that they can land on and get at the nectar and the pollen as well. So anything in the daisy family, Shasta daisies, dahlias, cosmos, any of those kind of flowers in any colors, they'll be very attracted to. Bees also love flowers in more of a spiky shape, like lavender. They love lavender. They love veronica and salvia as well.
Now, if you want to attract butterflies to your garden, there's a couple things you need to know. First off, depending on the time of year and the species of butterfly will determine which flowers they actually get attracted to. They're attracted to blue, red, yellow, purple, all different kinds of shades of colors. What's really important though is the shape of the flower, and they like more of a flat type of flower or maybe even just an upside down cone like a cone flower, but they're also attracted to dahlias like you see right behind me here. We see them all the time on our dahlias and it's so fun. They're also attracted to blanket flowers, zinnias, and cosmos. Keep in mind that some of your pollinators are either going to be migratory and they're going to move through your area and then out over a certain period of time, and then others are going to be year-round. And so for those year-round pollinators, some of them are going to be active the whole year, and then others are going to actually hibernate. So it's a great idea to have some type of duff or some leaves in your garden. Leave some of this so like bumblebees, let's say, have somewhere to go to overwinter and get away from and hibernate during those winter months, and then get back active in the early spring to get back out into your garden.
Now we want to talk about attracting pollinators and supporting them through different times of the year, different seasons. So going season by season and thinking of the whole United States divided into regions, there are a lot of the same plants that overlap between different regions. Of course, there are specific native plants that are only obviously native to those areas. So spring is one of the easiest seasons to think of. There are a lot of things blooming for the first time. A lot of pollinators are waking up from hibernation, or they're coming and migrating back into your area. There's all kinds of flowering bulbs and trees in bloom and different plants that you can plant in your area. Some specific examples for spring season, and they might vary depending on where you live. Tulips, daffodils, lots of other spring blooming bulbs, flowering cherry trees, columbine, viburnum, and lots of other examples. Summer season is obviously probably the easiest one to plan for because everything pretty much is in bloom. So lavender, roses, zinnias, dahlias, you name it. There's lots of options for summer season.
Now, supporting pollinators in the fall and winter months is a little bit different because obviously the temperature is lower, things are cooling off, the sun angle is getting lower in the sky, days are getting shorter. So specific plants are going to still flower during that time, and those will be great for the pollinators in your garden, help support them. And those include like asters, goldenrod, sedums, autumn joy, pansies, like you see here. Other plants could be coneflowers, blanket flowers, and black-eyed Susan. In the winter season, plants that can help support pollinators in your garden, depending on where you live, can be camellias, snowdrops, hellebores, and winter jasmine. Now, if you're looking for more ideas on which plants to add to your garden to help support pollinators, you can always go to EdenBrothers.com, check out all the different perennials and the annual plants in the seed form or in roots or bulbs that they provide. And if you're not sure what to plant, you can always get a wildflower seed mix and start there.
And we hope this video was really helpful for you, no matter where you live, and just thinking about pollinators and how to attract more of them to your garden. And from us at Spoken Garden and Eden Brothers, thank you for watching.